Hello and welcome to Ray's New Start Guide for No Man's Sky. I went through a bunch of saves trying to figure out how to play, and I started watching videos by these guys here, and they turn out to be the ones that resonate the most for me. So I've compiled all the stuff I've learned from all four of them into a new start guide. So this is how I start a game. So when you load in, the first thing it does is it pans around. So you start looking immediately. I know right away this world's going to be great because there's a cave right in front of you. So you've got two options when you start a game. You either have caves available to you, or you're going to need to start collecting sodium right away. If you've got a cave available to you, which if you pop into photo mode, it's the closest thing to a pause this game has. So you pop into photo mode, now you can look around within the area that you're in and and see what's going on. You've got kind of like nuclear winter when you're hiding in a bush and you want to make sure you got good coverage. You pop into photo mode. Here you pop in, you look for a cave. So if you can get into a cave, that's going to immediately start recharging your hazard protection and protect you from the elements. That way you don't have to have sodium immediately. If you don't have caves available to you, which sometimes they're far away, pretty much every planet has a cave, but some of them can be hard to find. If you do, then while you're panning around in photo mode, look for little yellow flowers that are going to be your sodium. Start immediately farming ferrite dust so you can recharge your scanner and find it, because you've only got that tiny little bar worth of hazard protection to save you. So got a cave. I'm in awesome shape. Super excited because I see subterranean relics, which when you're starting a game, if you were on a planet where your caves have subterranean relics, you are in the money. So you grab these up and you'll see, so the Vortex Cubes sell for a couple thousand, but the Tetra Cobalt is the truly important component that you're seeing there. That's going to be refined into ionized cobalt, which is a good money maker early on. So I'm sliding the cubes into the cargo slots because I can carry twice as many. I'm moving all the technology into the technology spaces to free up general inventory, and now it's time to get busy. So first order of business is going to be to collect carbon, because that is going to recharge your mining beam. So before you really do anything else, start loading up on carbon. Get as much as you can get to begin with. Now in this case, there's a lot of carbon here, so I'm not going to worry too much, but I do want to get a few thousand going so that I don't have to stop and gather carbon every couple of minutes, because when you really start grinding out this cobalt, you're going to go through your mining beam really quick. Now the first thing you notice is that your mining beam will turn red. That is getting you the most resources, but it's also going to overheat on you. So begin pulsing the beam once it gets to that point, and you can keep it gathering the maximum amount of resources, but not overheat on you and have to shut down and start all over again. So that's the key to the to the mining beam. With this starter gun, it is really difficult because it overheats really easily. So you just have to finesse it, figure it out, but you want it to be running in the red as much as possible, so that you're gaining the most resources possible from every little bit of carbon that you're pumping out of your multi-tool. The scanner is super handy, and somewhat vital. Not as much when you're in a cave as it is when you're out from undercover, but get some ferrite so that you can recharge your scanner and get that sucker working again. It's a good way to start making some early cash, because as you scan plants and animals, you get a cash reward for that, and you can also get nanites for uploading that information. So charge up that scanner, throw in a little bit of ferrite dust, and now you can locate all the stuff. Now this is how you would be finding your sodium, but you'll also see that it'll pop up. So there's some oxygen up there and a little booster. There was a little bit of sodium in that upper corner. So now I cleaned out the one cave, onto the next. You're going to want to just kind of run around here and gather up resources. So hazardous flora, a good source of sodium and oxygen at the beginning of the game. So you definitely want to collect as much of this as you can get. And as you'll see, when you get to the ones that have sodium in them at the beginning of the game, it'll kick off. You need a certain amount of sodium before it'll start you on your find your ship quest. So we'll get into that as soon as we get some of the sodium here. Typically it expects this to be the first thing you do, but in this case you don't really care, because you don't need to be at your ship until you're much better set on the amount of cobalt you've collected. Now if you don't have a cave in the immediate vicinity, you've collected some sodium, you've started towards your ship, you should come across a cave at some point. I can't think of any time I've ever been on a planet, a starter planet, that hasn't had a cave of some kind at some point. This one's a little bit sparse on cobalt, but it's still plenty to be able to collect enough for our purposes, and just a ton of these Vortex Cubes, which is going to give me a huge stack of ionized cobalt. Just collect. Get as much of the cobalt as you can. That is the item that is in every single space station. Every trade terminal, everything, everybody has cobalt for sale. And so having it for sale is critical to the money-making process. So you want to avoid selling anything, any of these commodity items that you can't buy back, because that's how this program works. But anyway, just getting a little bit organized here. The marrow bulbs, you can hang on to those because they refine to sodium. But eventually, once I get a good stack of sodium going, I'll stop saving the marrow bulbs. So you can see just right in the middle of the screen, there's that little red circle with the crescent in it. That is your ship indicator. When we decide we've got a good stack of everything we need, that's the direction we'll be headed. As it turns out, this particular cave system led me all the way to the ship, so that's always handy too. So now I'm going to throw on a visor. So the analysis visor is what you use to scan plants and animals for cash. I jumped the gun on that other scanner comment. That one just finds the fauna that you need. So flora that you need. So now the scanner's working. Now you can also analyze the minerals. So a lot of the items, both plants and minerals, have a secondary element to them. And so you can, when you're mining, you'll get a bonus item. Sometimes it's good, sometimes you don't care. In this case, the secondary item that we get off of this little plant here, the mordite, facium, is not important, so we'll just be tossing that for now. But the item that you're getting off of the cobalt is salt, and salt is good because it refines into chlorine, which is a very profitable item, and it's definitely a good one to refine, especially early on. We'll get a nice little chunk of change out of it. So just drop whatever you don't need, and when you're collecting items, you'll get these geodes and also some crystals from dihydrogen. So you just inspect those items, and it will give you either a big chunk of cobalt or some Tetra Cobalt or ferrite dust. Whatever you were collecting when you got it, it'll give you a big stack of that when you inspect it. And so now just cobalt. One of the things you can do with your visor is mark locations to make things easier to track down. So here I've got some subterranean relics, which are the Vortex Cubes. So we're going to go ahead and hit those up, and looks like there's one here kind of precariously placed on the side of this cliff. So just be careful. Falling will injure you. Even a little fall can hurt you a lot. A big fall can kill you, and this is a pretty big fall from here if I just had walked off the edge and not been able to catch myself. So just go back in here and just finish up collecting cobalt. You want to get at least 3,000, probably more. I mean, the more you can get, the better off you are. But at least 3,000 is enough to ensure that you're going to completely crash the market, which is what you really need to do. All right, so now I do need to get down there, so I'll use my jetpack and try to soften the landing. I do have to be careful of that plant right there because it is hazardous, and oops, a little too far. You can see just that little tiny bit of a drop was enough to ding me a little bit. Now I can see my ship. We've got most of the resources here. Come over the cliff. Let's see some condensed carbon and some dihydrogen crystals. So those are definitely handy. You'll see here when I scan this animal. So 1,600 units just for holding the button down for a second. Not a bad exchange. So when you get to your ship, there'll be a tutorial that'll walk you through. There's always a little bit of oxygen plants here, usually 4 of them right next to the ship. And that's typically enough to get you your refiner. So you'll see that in a couple minutes. The radiant pillar is your first ship. You go in and it'll run you through an auto sequence. It'll tell you all the stuff you need to do. So first things I always do when I get in here is I scrap the rocket launcher. The next step of the trip, you're going to need some chromatic metal, and you refine that from copper. If you've got that on board, it just makes it a lot easier. And I don't use the rocket launcher. I mean, some people do, but hopefully you're not in this particular ship for long enough to have to fight any pirates. And so you won't have to worry about it anyway. But yeah, so I always scrap the rocket launcher. Just makes it quicker for me later. So now at this point, I just move some stuff over to the starship, and not enough. I'm so stupid. I left open cargo slots, which cost me in the end. But you know, you can laugh at me when we get to that part. So there's always these containers around. Anytime you see damaged machinery, There's probably buried technology somewhere nearby too. You can see that in a little blue chevron marker that's been floating around. Now, on these kind of containers, there is typically rusted metal. At the very beginning, I always take it in because you're going to be doing a little refining session, and rusted metal refines into ferrite dust, and you do need a lot of ferrite dust. So on the way to get the hermetic seals that you need to get your ship running again, found some more caves, so gathered up some more vortex cubes. So you can see I am just going to have an absolute crap ton of ionized cobalt, but also gathering more and more of the regular cobalt in the way, which is also giving me pretty good stacks of salt. So now a little metal plating, going to make my refiner, and get busy concentrating some of this stuff down. Your backpack will fill up with things you can reduce. So you throw a little carbon in there to fuel it, and now we can start busting things down. So you can see stack of Tetra Cobalt is going to give you 150 to 1 on ionized cobalt. So also in here, all right, just going to clean up these. Of course, usually about the time I forget to clean up all my geodes, it'll drop something that I just did a big refining run on, and so got to start all over again. But here you go, 150 to 1 on the ionized cobalt. So I dumped some salt earlier, but then realized I needed to keep it. So here we go. So 2 salt gives you 1 chlorine, and chlorine sells for about almost 800 units, where ionized cobalt is 5 and cobalt is 250. So while I'm waiting, gather a little bit more cobalt, throw the chlorine in. Now we've got a few other residual stuff. So here you see rusted metal break down into ferrite dust. So that's pretty handy to do. Kill a little more time while we wait for that to go through, and always gathering, because it may seem like you've got a lot of stuff, but you don't have a lot of stuff. Some of these take a while to process, so you definitely have time to kill. This is about the time I realized that I screwed up and didn't dump enough stuff in the starship. But hey, what are you gonna do? So here's the marrow bulb, get a little sodium. So once you get to the nexus and you get to the vendors where you can buy upgrades, upgraded technology blueprints for different items, you'll actually be able to get a backpack refiner. It's called a personal refiner, and that'll be a huge time saver because you'll be able to refine stuff while you're flying between planets. Okay, so here we go. My inventory's full. Now, Vortex Cubes are nice, but the Tetra Cobalt's more important. So if I have to drop a stack of Vortex Cubes so that I can pick up another one and get the stacks of Tetra Cobalt, I absolutely will do it every time, because the ionized cobalt is worth so much more than the Vortex Cubes ever will be. All right, now I got to make my way over to get the hermetic seal. few things to pick up along the way. When you're scanning birds in the sky, all you need to do is have them read just as soon as you push the button, and they can fly out of the screen. You don't have to track them while you're doing it. Here I've got some living slime. Now you saw the residual fluids or viscous fluids and stuff like that. Those all refine down, but to living slime. But it just takes too much time and too much carbon. But the living slime, it goes into runaway mold. Runaway mold goes to nanites, and nanites are how you buy all your upgrades. Well, not all your upgrades, but most of your upgrades. So the residual I'll just dump because it's not that common at this point in time to find that, so I don't have to worry about getting any more later. All right, I've got my hermetic seal, headed back to the ship, scanning. Oh, this guy looks interesting. He's nice and big. I bet he can get me back to my ship really fast. So I'm going to make some creature pellets, and we'll see what happens. Here, birdie, birdie, birdie. It is a bird, right? I can't tell. Looks like a bird, although he doesn't fly. But he will let me hop on his back, and when you feed him, you'll see a bunch of them will come up. So they'll have a little indicator that shows you can mount them. Hop on, and then you can give them a little kick and giddy up. So I can't imagine how incredibly hard it would be to ride something like that with him, throwing you 6 feet in the air and dropping you. But hey, it's a video game, right? So back at the ship, I'm going to throw that hermetic seal in to repair my pulse engine and refine some ferrite dust to get some pure ferrite to fix my launch thrusters. You've collected the blue dihydrogen crystals because you'll never have enough of those. Every time you see them and you get a chance, gather them up. So that'll give you the stuff you need to finish this up, and away we go. Now, I love flying on planets, and I've discovered that if you fly east or west with the north or south indicator. So your compass only has a north and south indicator. But if you fly with it just in either corner of the compass and you fly in a straight line, you're going to find all of the stuff. So these planets are laid out linearly. So you can see here right away, I'm passing a crashed freighter. That's one of the items that you'll find on planet. That's something that you'll get from distress beacons. So if either you buy the planetary maps or you go to any of the locations that give you distress beacon information, like a observatory or a tower. So by flying in this, east or west, it doesn't really matter. So that's not anything I'm interested in. That's a drop pod. You're going to come across these, these small settlements, all these little things that you interact with on a planet that get you other stuff. So my main thing when I'm first starting out is I love it when I can find a crashed ship. And if I get lucky, it's worth, a few $1 million or a few million units. There are no dollars in the game. So you're going to get a quarter of whatever it's worth if you scrap it in its damaged configuration. So here I come across, so this is a little trade terminal ball. You'll find these occasionally, so you can, plop down and sell stuff to it, just like you can at a minor settlement or a trading post. But for now, you know, I'm hoping to find a ship, so I'm going to keep going and look for the observatories or the beacons, and hopefully be able to find a crashed ship. So you scan, and that'll show you the little minor settlements that are around, or not even minor settlements, just unknown buildings. You know, just the little knickknacks that are around on the planet. Fly low, not particularly fast. The rendering is pretty tight on this, and so if you're going too fast and you're too high, you'll miss most of what's on the planet. If you'll see in a little while, if you're not hitting the tops of the trees every once in a while, you're not flying low enough. Don't worry, your ship can take it. Just keep scanning. Oh, I spotted something down on the ground. What's it gonna be? It was around here somewhere. Just keep going back. This thing, you fly by and it's hard to make. All right, so this is a nice little tier 3 explorer. When you see those big balls on there, those are the max slot explorers. So super excited. Gonna scan this thing, find out. Wait a minute. How come it's not showing me what the ship is? Ah, shoot. You don't want one of those little pilots there. He just wants you to help him fix his ship. You can't take that ship. Okay. Better luck next time. That sucks. That would have been a good one. That probably would have been a $10 million ship. So I would have got, you know, $2.5 million just out of scrapping that thing without fixing it at all. So, you know, carry on. So just keep flying. You can see the little north indicator is just up in the upper right corner, and you know that helps you keep on bearing. It's really, really hard. You know, I don't know why there isn't a better compass on here, especially since a lot of what they, you know, finding spots on the planets requires you to know the latitude and longitude. So, but anyway, if I keep that north or south in either one of those corners, I can make sure that I'm, you know, flying in a straight line. So, and you can see I'm coming across stuff at a pretty good clip, and you know, you'll catch stuff out of the corner of your eye. I like a ship with as little profile as possible, and the fewest number of engines possible too, because those trails can be pretty distracting when you're looking down trying to spot stuff on the ground. And do a little scan, and we found a beacon tower. See here, a little bit close. Try to find a landing. Just keep hitting it. Eventually you'll find someplace to land, and then run down and check and see what that beacon's got. Alright, so it does its scan, and what's it going to give us? A minor settlement. Not bad. Okay, would have rather had a crash ship, but a minor settlement will do. We'll be able to sell off our Vortex Cubes and some other stuff to free up some inventory space, and we'll also be able to flip our cobalt. So there's two economies in every system. There's the planet economy, and there's the space station economy. So you've got an opportunity to crash both of those markets in each solar system that you're in. So always make sure that you're hitting up both the space station and a trade terminal on the planet, which is either going to be that little ball that you saw floating in space, miner settlement, or the regular trading post. So if you've got a long way to go on the planet, just fly up into the upper atmosphere, and now you can use your pulse engine to quickly get around to the other side of the planet, and saves a ton of time. If you only have a short distance to go, you can just fly up above the clouds and you'll speed up. But here we are now at the little settlement on the dark side of the planet. And all kinds of stuff going on in these little buildings. So there's some containers to loot. Come inside and you've got typically weapons bench. You've got this guy that'll sell you some technology blueprints, or just some supplies if you need stuff to make things. So collect the nanites. So here's the weapon that's available in this. You can, if you like the class but you don't like the weapon, you can reload the save from getting out of your ship, and it'll load the alternate weapon into the cabinet. But in this case, it's only a C class, and I don't want to spend my money on a multi-tool quite yet, because I'm still hoping to get a ship so that I can buy a new ship on planet, or on the space station. Fun little thing. So if you're hurting for carbon, the potted plants in the space stations and in these buildings will all give up just a little bit of carbon. So if you're someplace like on a high sentinel activity planet where you get busted for cutting down trees, you can collect a little bit in these places to get you by sometimes. All right, so they don't sell ionized cobalt or chlorine, which is a bummer. I hadn't really totally made up my mind on this. So definitely going to sell the cobalt. So you can see I'm selling the cobalt for $250 something, I think. And then I'm going to be able to buy it up, buy it back for much less. So now come in here, scroll up, there's the cobalt. Gonna sell it off, get $1,250,000. And then I'll buy back what they've got. So I'll pick up a little bit more, and I'm buying it for 79% less than market value. So rough math, you sell it for $250, you buy it back for $50, and that's the process that you're going to do. Over and over and over and over and over again until you've got so much money you get tired of it. So I'm loading these Vortex Cubes from the spaceship, because if I have a bunch in my inventory, if I sold those and then went back and tried to sell the ones from my ship, I would get less money for them. So by moving them all over into a single inventory, I'm able to sell them all for full price. So I also sold my chlorine, which I shouldn't have because I couldn't buy it back. I didn't have enough to really crash the market, so I wasn't too concerned about it. But it's just a good habit to be in. So north is back in the corner of the screen, and off I go, bound and determined to find a ship, because I like that money to start with. Between the cobalt flipping and scrapping a ship from the planet, I can typically afford whatever exotic ship comes in, which is guaranteed to be an S-class. So that's always handy. Okay, there I go. I clipped a couple of trees hanging close to the ground. So once you get used to this stuff, it's pretty easy. Now you can see I'm drifted. All right, so I've drifted off a little bit, but come back around, and okay. So definitely love finding these. So this is a abandoned building, I think is what they call it, or an abandoned factory. So you'll recognize them because they've got the strange structures on the outside, look like growing things with the with these purple eggs all around it. And so inside these eggs are larval cores, which are going to give you a ton of nanites. So typically from one of these buildings, you're going to expect at least 1,000 nanites from collecting these. Now there's all kinds of schemes that people have used, you know, digging holes in the ground so that the eggs roll down and the terrors can't get you. But for me, the easiest and best thing to do is just ride it out. Okay, so once you pop one of these things, all of these creatures are going to pop out, and they're scary. They make a lot of noise, and most of the time all they'll do is push you around. They will occasionally attack you, and if they start to attack you, just run inside the building. There's doors all over this place, and you know, just come out, and they'll typically have settled back into this routine. Now you'll notice every once in a while some of these will disappear. These have started glitching after the Desolation update. Sometimes they roll inside and you can just hold the activate key down and you'll gather them even though you can't see it, but sometimes they're just gone. You just collect what you can. Now there is a time limit on these, so if you let them sit too long, they will disappear on you. But typically you've got enough time. You know, sometimes these guys will push you around and push you off of them. You can see they don't even care if you shoot them when they're running around. It doesn't aggro them or anything. You don't have to be particularly careful about that. Now, if they happen to hit you when you are activating your jetpack, you will fly so far up into the sky that you were probably going to die when you hit the ground, unless you've got really, really good timing with your jetpack, because they launch you like a giant does in Skyrim. But collect up these larval cores, just kind of, you know, ride their little, you know, their little wave, because they will push you around a lot. But most of the time, they don't attack me. And when they do, it's just once, and I can duck in a building and be done with it. You know, they are not super aggressive, and you can see that, you know, I mean, people build walls around these things and all kinds of stuff to try to collect these. But for me, the only time I have any problem is when they disappear into the ground. So And I love the little legs that they hold up in the back, up in the air. They're just adorable. I love them. They're so cute. And they run, they lean when they run. I mean, what could be more fun? So that's a guaranteed way to make a ton of nanites. And you can find these, you can, they are, I don't remember which one of the maps. You can buy planetary maps that have these on them. So I line back up and away we go. Still really wanted to find a ship, but at this point I gave up because the beacon gave me another minor settlement, and the next observatory gave me an ancient site off planet, and neither one of them are helpful at this point. And I wouldn't be able to get any more information on a crashed site from another unit until I went and checked out those that I'd already been given. So now I'm headed to the signal for the next part of the quest. Now keep in mind that so you're going to get the plans for your base computer and your terrain manipulator. Terrain manipulator is vital. You know, this thing is going to do all kinds of stuff for you, including give you a way to escape storms. You get your terrain manipulator, you're out wandering around and you get caught, you can just point it at the ground and start blasting, and you'll dig yourself a little cave and you know, be able to be safe. Now here, you know, it pays to read the directions. I needed 2, I only made 1 carbon nanotube, so I had to go back and make another one. If your inventory is full, you can make it in place on top of the other one, so you don't have to worry about that. So now here's buried technology. You want to collect all these you can too. Everywhere you go, use your visor to search for them, because this is how you buy all of your blueprints for base building. Jen taught me to be a good planetary citizen and fill in your holes when you get done. So you just change the setting on your terrain manipulator and you can fill it back in. All right, so I had stopped collecting carbon because certainly I've got enough, and you know, sure enough, I did not. So trying to free up some space. So the silica is what you get from the byproduct of mining or terrain manipulation. So fortunately, it also fuels the terrain manipulator. Bleh, easy for you to say. And so, all right, so I identified that I needed some carbon, so throw on the mining beam and, ooh, out of charge. Now, I know I could have charged it with the condensed carbon I had, but I wanted to show you this. If you're in a pinch and you've got no other way to fuel your mining beam, and you need some carbon, beat it out of the trees. So you can use your melee strike and collect it just like you do with the mining beam, only a lot slower and a lot more violently. And now once I've completed that, now I can load it up and start mining conventionally. But they do give you a way, if you happen to run completely out of carbon, to refuel your mining beam. So I always thought that was fun. And, you know, certainly handy. All right, so one thing to keep in mind, so you don't have to build your base right there when you're, you know, where it, you know, first prompts you to. It's not required. You know, you can make it anywhere else. The only thing is that it just delays how long it is before you get the quest to go to the space station. Just like when you were working on your ship, when you go to get the hermetic seal, there's a storm. When you start making your base, there's a storm as well. So you'll see these little nav boxes all over the table, so make sure you grab those. You'll either get some nanites or you'll get some navigation data. So this is an observatory, so it gives you a little puzzle that you have to solve to get the information from it. They're pretty simple little math problems, sometimes just sequence orientation problems. So do those and you'll get your scan. Here's where I get the scan for the ancient ruins. You know, that's not what I'm doing right now, so I'll let that pass. So here is refining the larval cores. So you'll see I got 24 cores, and that's going to net out to be 1,200 nanites. So just drop those in your refiner. Now you do have to have an open slot to be able to move the nanites to your exosuit. They don't take up a slot, but you have to have an open slot to be able to move them over there. So just keep that in mind, you know, when you're running on the ragged edge of filling up your backpack. Now, that is not going to last forever. It's hard at the beginning because it is so confining, but you know, you're going to fix that once you start flying around in space. So got all that wrapped up. A little bit more cobalt in the cave, and away we go. We're going to go to the space station. So there's a quest thing to do while you're at the space station, but there's more important things to do at the space station. First thing to always remember, every single space station you go into in the Nexus 2, go expand your backpack slots. So this is the most convenient time to do it. It costs money, but you're going to have plenty of money. You're not going to ever worry about how much cash you've got, you know, when you go through this. So we've already got $1.2 million because we sold the cobalt on the planet. So, you know, we're covered for this part of the operation. So come over here to this little guy and you'll see it pop up here. Now I highly recommend that don't put it in general. So fill up as much of the cargo as you can until you get to you know, where each cargo slot costs $1 million. And then also don't forget to expand your technology. But get those expanded before you start filling up your general slots, because you'll be able to hold more stuff. You know, the technology you're going to need to have available to be able to, you know, get scanner modules so you get more money, to get, you know, hazard protection and shields and all that good stuff amped up in your suit, so that you've got a better chance to survive. So here on the terminal, they sell cobalt and they also sell chlorine. I wasn't going to be able to crash the market on chlorine, so it's not that big a deal, but you know, it's always best to hang on to it, you know, because that you make an absolute ton of money on. All right, so so they sell cobalt here, so I was able to flip the cobalt. So now you can see that you know, I have a little bit more cobalt than I had started with, but now I'm going to be able to get a lot more. So I had you know, 65, 80. Now I'm going to get all the way up to 8420, and so, you know, that's going to be, you know, that's going to be huge, because I'm buying all that at $50 a unit, where I sold it for 200. So now is where you're really going to kick it into extra high gear, because each one of these guys that flies in is going to give you the opportunity to buy cobalt at the price for the space station. So you'll be able to buy them for the crashed price when you get in here and talk to these guys. Now you're going to hit every single one of these that come in and find out that some of them are the same, the same company, and so you will have already bought everything they had. But so now you're going to clean these out. So you're going to just keep buying and buying and buying until you've bought up everything that these guys have. So see, this guy I've already bought out, so leave him. So just keep going around guy to guy. Now all the while you're going to be paying attention to the ships that come in, because you're also going to be wanting to to find yourself a new ship. Even though I didn't have a crash ship to give my my bank the boost I was hoping for, still for what I've got, it's not too bad. So you can see now I've got plenty of cobalt now. So at this point I've got 22,044, where I started out with 6579. That's what you want to do to start out. You're going to do this the first few times. I typically go until I get 5 stacks, because that takes up one line of my my backpack inventory, and I run with that until I can get get some space freed up. I don't want to tie up all my space in cobalt. There'll be plenty. You're going to hit a lot of stations, and so every system you go to, you're going to go to the space station, get your backpack upgrade, and get your cobalt money. So now we're going to flip a ship. So this little A-class shuttle came in. Typically you're looking for any A or S-class ships between $2.5 and $3 million to buy and scrap. Now this particular one was a little bit low. I probably wouldn't have got a ton for it. Plus I still need to scrap my radiant pillar, because this just gives me a lot more slots. So 15 slots up to 23 slots. I don't want to fly around in a shuttle. I won't have the ship very long. And typically I'm looking for an explorer, because explorers give you the most takeoffs and landings. So flying around on planets, which I do a lot of, is a lot easier in an explorer. You're not constantly having to do that. Now when you're going to scrap a ship, scrap all the technology in it. You'll get these components that you'll use later to upgrade your ships with technology. So scrap those out before you do the sale. Now one of the things I realized was that so you need to have at least 10 slots open in your inventory to be able to flip a ship. So I needed to free up that space, because you're going to get a bunch of junk and you're going to get upgrade modules, and so you've got to have enough space for all those to hit your inventory. So when you now here, I'm getting rid of the radiant pillar, so I'm hopping in, hopping out. So it's my primary ship. That's going to make it the one that I'm dealing with at the scrap terminal. When you scrap these, you don't get the money for it. You see, scrap worth 385,000 units. So you're going to get a series of different kinds of junk that then you have to sell. But then you also get these modules, and they're typically matched with the class of the ship that you scrap. Most of the systems, especially since you're going to concentrate on rich systems later on, once you get a economy scanner in your starship, you're going to have access to a lot more S-class ships. They're the best to scrap. You get guaranteed storage augmentations, and you get better modules that you can upgrade your other ships with. So now I'm going to run down here and take the stuff that I had received and unload it on him. Sometimes some of the stuff you get you want to keep. Now, I could keep that ionized cobalt and just throw it in my stack, but for demonstration purposes, I'm just going to go ahead and clean it out. So you've got all those once useful parts that you sell off, and that gets you your money. Now, one of the things that you can do is you don't have to sell it right away. If you hang on to it, if some of the stuff you'll see, some will be worth plus 3%, some will be 0%, but some of it will be negative 10%. Don't sell that stuff, hang on to it, sell it later when you find somebody that'll give you more money for it, and you'll make more money overall. So that's the plan. That's my program. Hope you guys enjoyed it, and I'll talk to you soon.